Hey guys, I'm back with a collection that I got a while back, and I was supposed to go through and appraise it for a friend of mine. And this is basically the entire collection here. So I wanted to go over how I valued it and how I broke it down, and what are the options to do if you're looking at getting rid of a collection like this. So let me just point out that all of this pile. So I broke it down into colors. Let's talk about that first, okay? Hold on, I gotta get some notes that I made here. Also, I forget. I'm getting old, you know. That's how these things work when you get old. Um, so when you get a collection and you're looking to sell a collection, or you're looking at your own collection, you have to sort it. That's the first thing you should do. What you should do is go by colors, okay? Green, black, blue, white, red. That's multicolored artifacts, lands. So sort your collection into those piles, okay? Um, if you're selling it to a vendor, like to a brick and mortar, usually they like to see it in some sort of sort, and it's much easier to go through colors because they can identify what's in a color and what's valued and what's not valued if you haven't done it already. But I've done that. So I've gone through and sorted all these piles. So I'm going to say that these piles here, okay, they're all bulk. So the best you're going to do with this is to sell it to a vendor who's interested in bulk magic cards. There's not many out there. You don't get much for these. For this pile here, if you get 20 bucks, you're lucky, I would say. Okay, and with lands, really only non-basics can go in the bulk. Basic lands are just, there's no value here. There are some lands that hold some value, but really there's none in this pile. So basic lands, you can chuck these two piles and just, I would just donate these to your brick and mortar. Say, here, put these in your bin for extra mana. So the only thing you can hold in bulk are these non-basics. So that's what it is. We have some unglued stuff here, and again, there's really not much value there. Only a few. The lands hold tremendous value. So if you get lands from that set, certainly they have tons of value. But the only value is here. This little pile here is after you've gone through your bulk. You take out your bulk rares and foils and put them in a pile. There, you can get generally a few more cents on the dollar for bulk rares and foils than you can all this stuff. So out of the collection, so this pile here is where the value sits, and we'll go over that. This also has value, but we're talking a dollar or less. And this, out of this entire collection, is what's worth, I would say, the big bucks. But we'll go over that in a sec. I'll talk to you guys while I move some of this stuff off my desk. And again, sorting through a collection is the most important thing. It's very time consuming as well. I've gone through these cards multiple times just to triple check myself, make sure I wasn't missing anything. And even at that point, there is a chance that I may have missed something in these piles. Oops. Well, I apologize for that. That must have been horrible. But if you're into the ASMR, you might have enjoyed that. So let me just continue putting this stuff away and talking to you guys. The current market and the current state of affairs right now with the pandemic and whatnot, people aren't going out buying as much. So I'm really not going to speculate on what the market is. So I'm going to speak as if we're in a normal time and a normal market. You have a number of options in selling a collection like this. You can just go and go to your local brick and mortar vendor and say, hey, buddy, look here, I'm out, or I don't need all these cards. Do you want to, sell them? And let me just say, if you're going to sell a collection, I highly endorse that you sell to local brick and mortar. just to keep the collections rotating through players, right? Like, look, anywhere you sell them, I mean, it's a rhetorical ideology, like anywhere you sell them, they're going to get back into the hands of players. But if you sell them to your local brick and mortar, they're going to stay locally, right? I'm of the mindset that you want to support your local gaming communities, and if you're going to dump this kind of stuff into the market, do it locally. But certainly you don't have to. I mean, if you like, certainly I'm curating this collection for a friend of mine, and if he wants to sell that overseas, then certainly he can sell it overseas. So there's lots of options that we can look at when you're selling a collection like this. And it also depends on what you want. Some people want fast money and they want cash value. What I want to tell you is, when you look at now I've broken it down and we'll go over the numbers, but when you look at the value on stuff like this, you have to understand that if you're going to give to somebody, so you're selling this to somebody who is, let's say, best case scenario to get cash value, you're selling it to a private collector, somebody who just wants these cards for their collection. That's probably where you get the best bang for your buck in terms of cash value. Problem is, people who are in the market to buy something like this are far and few between. They're hard to find. Negotiations could be difficult, to say the least. Time consuming, and it's stressful, right? And if you need the money quickly, it's not easy unless you got somebody with deep pockets. There's a guy out there, Rudy Alpha Magic. He buys tons of the reserved list stuff, and he'll buy collections, and he's got deep pockets. But your collection needs to be top notch. If I were to grade this collection based on this many hits, like big hits for the entire collection, I would say it's subpar. It's what it looks like. It's somebody who's collected a bit over the years and who's enjoyed to play the game and has a bunch of random things, and really wasn't into the collecting side of it. More play. I'm going to play this game more than anything else. So, but when you want to get rid of your collection, you really need to think about what your options are and what you need and want out of it. You have to remember that if you're going to sell to your brick and mortar, you have to leave ample amounts of room for your seller to make money off of this, right? A brick and mortar is not. I'm not buying these cards to to play with them or to give them away or what. They're buying them to make revenue, right? So they can stay open and maintain their whatever it is that they do at the store. Maintain their spot so that you have a place to go and play. Let's be honest, right? Like, if you didn't have a place to go play, what would you do? Anyway, so what you do, you take all this bulk stuff, and you're going to find a vendor who's willing to buy this. These are all uncommons and commons, and they're just not worth much. Okay? And you want to find a vendor that's willing to take them off your hands for, let's say, I don't know, 2 cents a card, maybe not even, right? And they're going to do whatever they do with it. Now, a lot of people, and you can do, that's an option I will talk about with a collection like this, but some of them will create lots. So they'll take all these bulks, and put in a rare and maybe a mythic or whatever, and sell them as lots. But if you're going to do that, you have to offer the customer some kind of incentive to do that. Here, let me move these out of the way. I dropped one on the floor. I apologize. I don't apologize to you guys. I apologize to the owner of the collection. Anyways, so we'll get these out of the way. These bulk cards. right. Sorry about that, guys. I'm just all over the place with this right now. These lands, we're just going to move off to the side because nobody needs these. And we're going to talk about these fellas here, okay? Whoops. All right. So when you're talking about selling these cards to a brick and mortar, so what are the options? On sell options. So I've gone through my collection. I've gotten all the bulk out. I've sorted through all the cards, and I've figured out what is of value and what is not of value. Okay. And I've gone through everything. Now these two piles I've identified as having value, and these are the ones that I would take to sell. So if I'm walking into the brick and mortar to sell, this is the pile I'm taking. I'll also take this and say, look, I have, a small box of bulk rares. Will you give me anything for them? And again, foils are kind of in that same boat. If they don't hold any value, you can put them aside, and have a bulk box of foils, and you'll get value just for foils. So in this collection, I ended up with 2 bulk foils and a bunch of bulk rares. Okay. Now, when you're selling to your brick and mortar, so your option, your number one, most of us, our number one options. Those are my notes there. Sorry. Number one options that we have is going to the brick and mortar and selling it there. So you have to keep in mind that brick and mortar needs room for profit. So if I'm going to go to take this collection and take it to the brick and mortar and get cash value, expect to be offered 40% or less of what this is worth. Okay, especially in this pile. What happens? Oftentimes you get cards like this. Okay, let's take this card. Is it Signet? Okay, it's a good card. It's worth, let's say, $1. Okay, these are $1 or around $1 less. So when I'm valuing these, what I like to do is knock off. If these are $1, I bulk these all at $1, and I'll say, look, 75 cents for each of these is the value that I'm seeking for, and then you work out, what the final deal is going to be for this group here. But what I want to say is, you have a playset of Is It Signet. They're worth $1, okay? But the problem with these things is the vendor probably has multiple copies of it, and for them to buy these at 40% of $1, so you want cash value for these at 40%, they're taking on all this bulk that will sit around for a while. They're not going to make any money off of it anytime soon. They're very reluctant, most vendors are anyways, to buy these bulk items, even though they have value and they can be sold, because they have a bunch already. This pile here will sort of push the vendor through whether or not they're going to buy this. Now, I've gone to some vendors and they just refuse to buy this stuff. Say, I have 20 signets. I don't need another 4 more. No, thank you. I'll just buy those. But you want to get rid of everything. You don't want this paper sitting in your closet at home or taking up space. So you want to get rid of it. So you have to incentivize the buyer as well. So I like to say, okay, these are valued at $1 each. I want 40% of 75 cents, right? So I'm leaving you tons of room to make money off of things like this. So that's what this pile is. It's $1, around $1 value, and this is all USD. I'm up in Canada, so it's a little bit more. But anyways, so this is the pile that I'm going to discount. Well, I'm going to recommend discounting to the owner of the set to say, okay, look here, these are worth about $1. You want to discount them at 75 cents each, and then say, I'm willing to take 40% on that. Again, you can negotiate, but your power to negotiate lies in this pile, and more importantly in this pile, right? What are the big hits in this? Okay, I'm going to show you something. So I did the spreadsheet. Let me just come on here and show you the spreadsheet. So here we go. We have, these are all the cards, what the price is as of, what was it, the 24th of March, the number of copies and the total, what it's worth, okay? So we see, you know, privileged position is a big hit here. Lots of glittering wishes. My friend here liked this card. So there's lots of those. Oh, we have an, if you look in this, so the other thing you have to consider is condition. Okay, so we have Domar the Banisher, we have one copy, but the condition is not the greatest. Same with the Soul Ring. There's a Soul Ring down here, and I marked it as really bad condition. Well, there's a Whisper Cloak, or is it? No, it's a Soul Ring. Here we go. Let me just come back to it for a second. So here's the Soul Ring. Now, it's worth $7, but in this condition, I doubt you could get $7 for it. There's some value to it because, I mean, you know, like look at that. That's a well-loved card. You know, to me, that's this is a card that I would keep in my collection to say this is how a Magic card should be. This is what a loved game is all about. This is what a loved card is all about. You know, this came in a time where there was no sleeves. There's no protecting the cards because we didn't have concept of value in markets and whatnot. We just wanted to play the game. So we took cards, and we used the term bareback back in the day, but yeah, just cards and just shuffled them. So, but when you're going to resell something like this, you have to take that into account. Now, if this is an alpha or beta, or a reserved list card, and it's in this condition, it will hold good value. This one here, if I'm going to sell this in good conscience, $1 or $2, I would say. So you have to factor in condition as well. So if you go back to my spreadsheet, oh, that's me. You don't want me. You want the spreadsheet here. So if you go back to the spreadsheet, you'll see, you know, these asterisks that I put here. Those are condition markers. One for it's, you know, there's some gameplay, and two, like you saw with that Soul Ring, which was, you know, heavily played. So that you have to consider condition as well. Okay, so this is the list. Oh, you can hear my kids playing, and there's the value right there. I'll highlight it there. Let's see if I can increase the font. So the collection is worth about 1,900 USD, and this is after going through all the cards and you know, marking them out and putting them forward. And I did make some other marks here on Cultivate and Kadama's Reach. I want to talk about those cards. When we talk about bulks, those are in this pile here. On my other pile, you can't see them on the screen yet. Vendors have lots of copies of those cards, but those are cards that sell easy and sell often. So you should look at getting good value for these types of cards. You know, Kadama's Reach and Cultivates are just staples in especially in EDH. If you're running a green deck, you're probably running one of those two cards. So this is a card that, you know, if you have multiple copies, and there's a play set here, you can get good value for it. And then my point before with is a Signet is the same with this Yavimaya Elder. It's $1 value, but you know, they don't sell as quickly, and vendors are more reluctant to pay even a percentage of what they're worth because they'll sit around for a while. So there you have it. That's the value of the collection. So then you have to take that into consideration when you're going, you know, to sell it, right? So at that value, what did I work it out? What did I work it out at 40%? What are people going to offer? Where did I write it down? I did write it down somewhere. Can't remember. Yeah. So if I wanted to take this collection and I'm going to go to a brick and mortar and say, look, here's the collection. Give me a cash value. And you saw, so if you were purchase all these cards, the value was about 1900 USD. So to be realistic, if you walk into the store and say, here, this collection minus these bulks. Okay, so we're talking about this core group of cards here. So big hits, good value, dollar value. Okay, so we take this into the store and say, hey, here's $1,900 worth of cards. I want 50% of that or 60% of that. You're not going to get it. Because this big hit pool is not enticing enough for a vendor to say, yeah, I'll take a hit on these cards to grab those cards. So you're probably looking anywhere between $500 to maybe $900, $1,000 cash value here. If you're going to go walk into the store, you have to be ready for that. You can't, you can't go into a store and think, yeah, I'm going to get $1,900. No, that's not going to happen. The vendor needs to make money. Lots of these are going to sit on the shelf for very long. These are hits that will move quickly. These will sit for a long time. These may move within a few months. So you have to be understanding of the plight that brick and mortars are under. They have to pay bills and keep open. And if you enjoy going there, you need to be understanding of that. So the idea is to sell to brick and mortars. That's the first option. I'll walk in, I sell these, and I say, give me 40%. So you should be around that 40%. If you can get more than that cash value, you get yourself a good deal on a collection like this. The other option is, oh, my kids, geez, don't have kids, people. I'm just joking. Have kids, they're wonderful. But if they're making noise in the background, I apologize. Anyway, so the other option is, this is the option that I prefer. So you'll get better cash values for lumps of cards like this. So premium, I call them premium cards. So like the Fairy's $30, I believe. He's a premium card, and he'll sell easily, and there's lots of room to make money off of this. So on these cards, if I were just to price these cards out and walk in and sell these, I'd probably get a better cash deal on just these cards. And I'll go over. Let's look at them. So you got the Fairy. There's a Playset of Privileged Positions. 2 Maelstrom Angels. These are really nice. 4 Land Taxes. Wooded Bastions, Birds of Paradise, Reanimates, Diabolic Intense, Omnath, Playset, a Phyrexian Arena, and then that Soul Ring. So they're really nice cards. They're great hits, and you can get a better cash value for that. So what I like to do is something I call a double trade. So if you walk into the store, and so let me back up. I apologize. If you're selling your set, you're really intent on getting rid of it, but you enjoy Magic, my suggestion to you is you take your set, you go to your local brick and mortar, and you trade it in for in-store credit. Most vendors do it. I think every vendor I've been to does in-store credit. You're going to get a better value. Your value for in-store credit, depending on who you go to, should be between 60 to 75%. Okay? So you're going to say, okay, here's $1,900 of value. Give me 60% of that in-store credit, and I'm going to get the cards that I want or need. Some vendors have issues between sealed product like packs and stuff like that versus loose product. That's a whole different discussion. But basically, you go in and you get a better value on your cards for trade-in. So that means you're going to trade this in, you're going to give it to the vendor, you're going to get 60% of $1,900, and you're going to go and use that in the store and get cards. A vendor once told me, he said, if I do that, I'm getting all these cards for maybe a handful of cards. That to me is worth it, because he looks at it as having product in his store, always having an abundance of resources. So when people come looking through, there's always new stuff. So it's worth it to him, even if he takes a bit of a hit on cards like this that'll sit around for a while. So the vendor that I use loves in-store credit and giving you good value for trade-ins. But what I like to do is something I call a double trade-in. So what I'll say is I'll take this and I'll go in and say, you know what, give me 60% of it in-store credit. And then they'll take these cards and I'll go and hand pick, I don't know, 3 or 4 cards, maybe some dual lands, a Gaia's Cradle, or, you know, stuff that has value, like $300, $200, $100, maybe some Force of Wills, some Jaces. And I'll take those cards and then I'll go to another vendor and sell them for cash value, because I'm going to get 50 to 60% cash value on dual lands, on things like Force of Will and Jace. It's just easy to sell those, and you're only dealing with a few cards, and it's much easier to negotiate over, you know, this pile of cards, right? Here, give me a cash deal for this rather than all of this, right? Because when you're doing a deal for cash, when someone is staring at like 4 Izzet Signets and like, geez, I have like 30 of those, what do I need another 40? And the guy wants money for those. Like, I don't want to give him any money. You have to remember these things. This is all part of negotiations. But if I'm sitting there with 4 land taxes and a Teferi, it's very easy for me to make a deal, right? Because these are premium cards. These particularly sell for $50 each USD. And he's 30. So it's easy to say, look, you're going to make money off of this. Even if you give me 60%, you're still making money. So, you know, fork over the cash. And someone's more willing to throw money at this than at this. Like, that's just the reality of it. So I like to use a technique. It's called a double trade, whether or not you think that's you know, viable, or if it's ethical or whatever. It doesn't matter. It works. It's much easier for me to do. I keep this bulk set I dump it into the community close to where I'm at, and I take the premium stuff and I'll go and sell them. For me personally, I take the premium stuff and I resell it for I'll take it to when there's conventions or tournaments and stuff, and there's vendors there. I'll take it there and trade it up for things that I want or need on a personal basis. But as a friend, helping a friend selling a collection, I would recommend, you know, selling this for in-store credit, trading that in for some high-priced cards, and then taking a road trip down to a store and getting some cash for it, and making a day out of it and having some fun. But then there's other options. There's not just that. You can also, you can piecemeal this, right? You can go onto eBay, create an account, and piecemeal this whole collection. Now, the problem with that is, A, is very time consuming. B, this pile will take forever to sell, and it's just sitting around. This will go quick. This will go semi-quick. But you're sitting on it, and it takes you a while. And if I were to do that, let's say my friend were to say to me, you know what, Jim, I want you to piecemeal it, sell it on eBay. It would take me forever. I would have to sell it, log it, and then once everything's all sold, sit down, do the financials, and say, okay, here's what I sold it for, here's the costs involved, and here's your money. But even then, there's costs, right? So this is, again, if I sold it for textbook value as of today, we're looking at about $1,900, but minus costs, right? Like, you know, there's time, there's mail, there's all kinds of things that go into costs associated to selling something like this, unless you want to do it yourself. Even if you do it yourself, like, you got to buy stamps, you got to buy, you know, pay shipping. Certainly you can charge the customer for that stuff too, but it takes time. The other idea is, you take a big bulk collection like that and you pull it off. So you take all the bulk cards, you know, 15 cards a pile, then you take one of these, one a pile, you know, and you sell it as you know, like a premium mystery pack, right? So I'm going to give you all these different cards, and You may crack the Teferi. Problem is, unless you have a collection that has some really, really nice stuff, like let's say play sets of dual lands and stuff like that, you're not going to generate interest in buying mystery boosters if all you're giving away is 1 Teferi and 4 land tax, right? So again, you could take a bulk collection on eBay and sell it as mystery packs. You know, let's say $5 a pack. You can potentially make a good chunk of change there. I've seen people make a lot of money that way, tens of thousands of dollars. But there's not enough in this collection to even consider doing that. So that's one thing you can do, and it all depends on the size of the collection. Again, and it all depends on this pile, that premium pile of cards, right? Out of all those cards we saw, this is it. This is the premium pile, right? I went through it, and you know, you may say, "Oh, that's lackluster," or some may say, "Oh, that's fantastic." But really, that's not a lot. So my best piece of advice will be to the owner of this collection is to take what's here. Again, it depends on what they want, what they're looking for. If they want more cards, certainly they can go and get more cards. The idea is to trade this in for in-store credit, and then get things that you may want from your collection. And if you really want the money, then just get all premium cards and sell those. So that's the collection. This little pile of is just added bonus to say here's bulk rares and foils. Will you give me 2 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents, whatever going market rate is at the moment. And the markets are in a bit of a flux right now, so now is not a good time. Again, I would recommend we sit and wait until after we have this issue sorted out with the pandemic, and see where the markets are, and then go and liquidate this collection. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'd love to do more stuff like this, but it's very time consuming, let me tell you. And let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Ciao.